All right, welcome back, guys. I've got another short one for you today. We are on letter 35, which is on the friendship of kindred minds. And let's just jump right into this here. So it says here, when I urge you so strongly to your studies, it is my own interest which I am consulting. I want your friendship, and it cannot fall to my lot unless you proceed as you have begun with the task of developing yourself. For now, although you love me, you're not yet my friend. But, you reply, are these words of different meaning? Nay, more, they are totally unlike in meaning. A friend loves you, of course, but one who loves you is not in every case your friend. Friendship, accordingly, is always helpful, but love sometimes even does harm. Try to perfect yourself, if for no other reason, in order that you may learn how to love. Okay, so this is there's quite a bit here to break down. Okay, so we're gonna take this verse by verse. When I urge you so strongly to your studies, okay, it is in my own interest which I am consulting. So he's saying to Lucilius, when I am pushing you towards studying Stoicism and philosophy, it's actually in my own interest. It's actually going to benefit me. And here's why. I want your friendship, and it cannot fall to my lot unless you proceed. So you can't actually be a friend to me. You can't actually be a friend to me unless you develop yourself in this way, right? And he says, as you have begun, it cannot fall to my lot unless you proceed as you've begun with the task of developing yourself. You must develop yourself in order for you to be a friend to me. And he says, well, wait a minute. For now, although you love me, so he admits that he loves him, okay, you're not yet my friend, right? And he says, what? But you reply, are these words of different meaning? Is being a friend and being of loving you different? And he says, nay, more. They are totally unlike in meaning. So not only are they different in meaning, they are completely opposite in meaning. He says, a friend loves you, of course. Okay, so if you're a friend to someone, you of course love them. But one who loves you is not in every case your friend. So just because you love someone doesn't mean that you're their friend. Friendship, accordingly, is always helpful. So being a friend to someone is always a good thing. But love sometimes even does harm. So think about this. Love, what happens when you're in love with someone? When you love something or you love someone, sometimes you actually do them harm, right? How many times has love caused harm, right? And maybe you've done this in your life or you've been experienced this, right? How many times do parents love their children to the point of actually harming them by trying to protect them too much or interfering too much with their lives? How many times does a jealous husband harm a wife by being too jealous and too controlling, right? So this love that most people speak of, which again, I would say this is not the true form of love, right? The true form of love is acceptance, in my opinion, but it does harm, right? Whereas friendship is always good. So he says, try to perfect yourself, if for no other reason, in order that you may learn how to love, which is interesting, right? So he's almost saying here that, yeah, this love that most people think is love, it's actually not love. It's just kind of as I said here. So, okay, so let's move on. All right, in verse 2, he says, hasten, therefore, in order that while thus perfecting yourself for my benefit, you may not have learned perfection for the benefit of another. So let's just take a pause here. Hasten, therefore, in order that, so quickly go, all right, while perfecting yourself for my benefit, right? We talked about this already. To be a friend, you need to perfect yourself, all right? You may not have learned perfection for the benefit of another. Okay. So why would he say this? Why is it important that you may not have learned perfection for the benefit of another? Okay. Well, let's read on. He says, to be sure, I'm already deriving some profit by imagining that we two shall be of one mind, and that whatever portion of my strength has yielded to age will return to me from your strength, although there is not so very much difference in our ages. Okay. So again, if we kind of dissect what he's saying here, this first part is a little bit confusing, right? Hasten, therefore, in order that, while thus perfecting yourself for my benefit. Okay, so go quickly, and so that while you're becoming a friend to me, you may not have learned perfection for the benefit of another. It still doesn't quite, you may not have learned perfection for the benefit of another. Okay. That that doesn't really make a lot of sense in this context, right? Or like some of these things aren't going to perfectly make sense, but you can think about these things, right? And this is how I approach this. It's like, okay, well, what is he really saying here? Okay, so he's already talked about that you need to be a friend, that you need to perfect yourself in order to be a friend, and he's saying you need to do it quickly, so that while you're doing this for me, you haven't learned perfection for the benefit of another. So maybe what he's saying here, and again, this is somewhat of a speculation because no one can know exactly, right? Some people can get interpretations of it, and maybe if we went to the original manuscript, we could sort of figure this out, understanding the context in the situation. But maybe what he's saying is don't learn the other things that, like, don't perfect yourself for someone else's benefit. I want to mold you the way that I want to mold you, right? Because that follows, because what he says is, after that, he's saying, I'm getting some profit by imagining we're going to be of the same mind, that whatever strength I have and that's been yielded to old age, you will renew it. It will return to me through you. Like you're going to be my prodigy, right? So even though there's not much difference in the ages. So that's kind of what he's saying. Is like, you're my pupil. I need you to like be on task, because you're going to be a friend to me. You're going to help me a lot by you learning these things and passing these things on, right? Passing on my legacy. But yet, I wish to rejoice in the accomplished fact. We feel a joy over those whom we love, even when separated from them. But such a joy is light and fleeting. The sight of a man and his presence and communion with him afford something of living pleasure. This is true at any rate, if one not only sees the man one desires, but the sort of man one desires. Give yourself to me, therefore, as a gift of great price, and that you may strive the more, reflect that you yourself are mortal, and that I am old. All right, so this one's a little bit difficult. So, okay, but we'll break it down. But yet I wish to rejoice in the accomplished fact. Okay, so he's saying, all right, I want to rejoice in what we already have here. Okay, and he's saying that we feel a joy over those whom we love. So that's true, right? We feel a joy when, even when separated from them, which is true. But such a joy is light and fleeting, which is true. Okay, so the joy that we have for loving someone, it's light and fleeting. All right, and then he says, the sight of a man and his presence and communion with him affords something of a living pleasure. So someone that we love, right? The presence, being around someone that we love, okay, it gives us pleasure. Okay, this is true at any rate. If one not only sees the man one desires, okay, but the sort of a man one desires. So it's not only a specific person, but this kind of person, right? I mean, doesn't it, I experience this a lot of times where I'm like, oh man, like I was on a plane coming back from San Diego, and coming back to San Diego, and there's so many people that are just rude. They just get up and, before it's their time, it's like, you should wait. Like if you're at the back of the plane, you shouldn't get up and just start going towards the front, because everyone wants to get out, right? And so let the row in front of you get out before you get up and get out, and just be courteous, right? And so it's annoying to me, right? And there was this one gentleman that was behind me and my wife and my daughter, and I thought that maybe he was going to get up, but instead, because he seemed anxious to get out of there. But when it came to our turn, he didn't get up. He was behind us, and instead, actually, he did get up. He got up to grab my bag for me, because he saw that I was going to go up to get my bag, and handed it to me, and then waited patiently while we all got out of the road, and he let us go out first. And I was like, wow, like seeing that kind of a person, it makes me happy, right? It fills me with joy. It's like a man, like a respectable man, an actual masculine man who understands, like, these things, right? It's just, yeah, it's good, right? You know what I mean? I like to see that. So that's what he's saying here. And he's saying that, give yourself to me, therefore, as a gift of great price, and that you may strive the more, reflect that you yourself are mortal and that I am old. So interesting. So he's saying to give, he wants Lucilius to be his pupil. Like, give yourself to me, right? as a gift of great price, right? To become my student, right? Really become my true prodigy, right? And he's saying, here's why you should do it, right? Why you should strive the more for it, right? You're mortal, you're going to die. And then I'm old, so we don't have much time. You don't have much time. I don't have much time. We got to do this quickly, all right? So in verse 4, he says, hasten to find me, but hasten to find yourself first. Make progress, and before all else, endeavor to be consistent with yourself. So quickly, like get where I am, but first you have to find yourself, right? Make the progress, but try to be consistent with yourself, right? That's the most important thing. And when you would find out whether you have accomplished anything, consider whether you desire the same things today as you desired yesterday. A shifting of the will indicates that the mind is at sea, heading in various directions according to the course of the wind. But that which is settled and solid does not wander from its place. Ooh, this is convicting. This is the blessed lot of the completely wise man, and also to a certain extent of him who is progressing and has made some headway. Now, what is the difference between these two classes of men? The one is in motion, to be sure, but does not change its position. It merely tosses up and down where it is. The other is not in motion at all. Farewell. Okay, so what is he saying here? What he's saying is here's the important thing, is to be consistent, right? And what does consistency mean? Well, he gives us the answer here. He says, look, if you want to figure out if you've actually accomplished anything, you got to check and see, all right, what do you desire today versus what you desired yesterday? If that's changing, if your desires are constantly changing, well, that's not good, because he says a shifting of the will indicates the mind is at sea, heading in various directions according to the course of the wind. So he's saying that a man which is settled, right? A wise man, a good man, as we would say, does not wander from his place, right? A wise man, he says this is the blessed lot of the completely wise man, and also to a certain extent of him who is progressing and has made some headway, right? Is that you're settled, solid, it does not wander from your place. So the desires that you have, your focus is the same, okay? And he says that what's the difference between these kind of men, okay? One is in motion, but he's not really changing his position. He's just going up and down, and the other's not in motion at all, right? So the key thing here, right, is what he's saying is that, look, you can't be all over the place, right? If you want to judge your progress, like once you have actually reached a level of wisdom, of enlightenment, you could say to a degree, then you should be pretty solid in what you're thinking and what you want. And if that's always changing, then that means you're not quite there. But even someone progressing is going to start to become more stable. So the less stable you are, the less you've progressed. And that's why he keeps on saying, we keep on living life, starting it over again, starting a new life, this is the common theme. And this is convicting because, again, I feel at times that this is me, right? I mean, I had a lot of stability and now it's like, I'm trying to figure out, but I mean, there's changes in life, but you do have to have the consistent path as you're going through. Like you should be converging upon this consistent path. All right, that is it for today. We will see you tomorrow.